Electric Fire Chapter 11 Supporting Me.
Sonic hadn't noticed me for a few minutes. When he did, he took the headphones off and looked back at me. I could hear the music playing. It was a Queen song, "You're My Best Friend."
Hi, Shadow. I just came up here to see if those guys would come back.
Sonic started to doubt that gun would be coming back, I could tell. But knowing them, they wouldn't stop trying to get what they want, which was me.
Hey, how about we go to something that's on your list? I mean, maybe not steal a motorcycle from Gun, but we can definitely try and pass the time instead of waiting up here for some guys who may have given up trying to take you down. Who knows, maybe you're free now.
He stood up but almost fell after losing balance near the window. I caught him by his arm and pulled him toward me. Knowing them, they won't stop looking for me. But sure, that sounds good to me. But will Tom and Maddie be okay if those guys do show up? I don't want to cause them too much trouble since they're the only humans who were nice to me after I escaped with Omega and Rouge. Sonic let out a sigh of relief after I caught him and pulled him back. I kept hold as he stood up again, this time keeping balance.
Yeah, they can handle themselves. They handled Robotic and some other guy that randomly came to the house after Robotic disappeared. Besides, Tom can lock up the attic from downstairs easily.
It was reassuring a bit, I guess. Tom and Maddie would be okay with me and Sonic heading off for a bit. Now I had to try and remember what was on my list, something me and Sonic could do. How about we go find a field of flowers? I mean, it doesn't look like it's the right time to witness a sunset or see stars since it is only noon.
Sonic nodded before thinking he knew where a bunch of fields were, but it was picking the right area. He knew of a cliffside outside of the town. It had a pretty large field of wildflowers. It was a mile near his old home, the underground cave he had stayed at before. That one day that set up his destiny with meeting his role model and their adventure on getting his rings from a building in San Francisco.
Alright, I know a good place. It's kinda far from here though, but we can make it quickly since we both have the same speed.
I agreed, then off we went, but Sonic decided to leave his headphones in our pothole before we ran off to the field of flowers. We made it there before 5 minutes could pass. There were a lot of wildflowers, white, purple, pink, and yellow. All my troubles seemed to have melted away as I lay down in the field of flowers. It wasn't hard to find a spot to lay. The sun was shining on the flowers. It even got a hold on me. Sonic found a spot in the field near me, but he lay down on his stomach. His head rested on his arms, which were crossed under his chin. I was laying on my back wanting to soak up the sun. The warmth felt good and it was much easier to relax now. Hidden within the flowers was nice. The flowers weren't very tall, but they hid me and Sonic pretty well. Only when we were laying down. If we were standing, well, that would be a different story. It wasn't long before I started dozing off. But then Sonic sat up a bit well alert. Something behind him caught his attention. He could hear someone shouting and then a dog bark. At first he thought nothing of it, but more shouting. Next thing I knew, Sonic was beside me, shaking me to get up. He stayed low to the ground. The shouts were starting to get closer. More dogs barked in the distance. It was definitely gone. Reinforcements were here. We had a cliff in front of us. If we run, they would spot us and possibly start shooting.
There's a forest under the cliff. It should give us more of a chance to escape.
I nodded to Sonic. We had to crawl through the flowers in order to reach the cliffside. Staying low to the ground was a bit humiliating. The flowers rustled a bit as we both army crawled as fast as we could to the cliff. We could hear the dogs. I knew we weren't going to make it to the forest. I was left with a choice. Let Sonic go on his own or us both getting caught. I stopped crawling. Sonic stopped as well. I stayed low to the ground, getting in front of Sonic. I was about to push him in order to protect him, but he grabbed onto my arm just as we heard a twig snap a couple feet away. I turned a bit to see a man pointing with what looked to be a shotgun at us. Sonic didn't let go. The man knew I was there. I didn't dare to move. Sonic barely let an ear twitch. He was afraid as well, but he didn't want to lose me. I didn't want to lose him either. The man held a steady hand on the gun. His pointer finger was set to pull the trigger at any time. More men appeared cautiously. Some held dogs back by leash. None dared to release the vicious hounds. The dogs started to jump and bark. We kept to the ground, low, not wanting to fight, nowhere to run to. Now I didn't have the heart to let Sonic go. Now he still had a good grip on my arm. It wasn't attack though. He wasn't trying to hurt me. Someone stepped aside as a military jeep came up. This thing was built for off-roading and mudding plus climbing over rocks. It parked near a large rock. Then a man got up and walked over to the other soldiers before stepping near the field of flowers. Sonic trembled a little after seeing the man before curling up into a ball. The movement must have got the man to look toward us. This guy was the commander. Ours met. I didn't dare to move though. Sonic still kept hold of me despite almost being in a full spiky ball. This guy looked somewhat familiar to me. He just walked a bit closer before stopping. My instinct to curl up was now taking effect, but I went against it. I had to protect my new friend. Some of the soldiers followed behind the man as backup if anything were to happen. Sonic, stay calm. Don't use your power right now. I whispered softly. I don't think the men heard me since I whispered pretty quietly, only loud enough for the blue hedgehog to hear. I only said that since I could feel the electrical current coursing through him. The commander then stopped a few feet away from us. I watched him gaze toward me, then to the blue ball behind me. The soldiers stayed behind him, guns pointing toward me.
There's 2 of them.
The commander called out to his men. One called back.
Yeah, I reported seeing a blue hedgehog with him yesterday after I retreated from the fight.
The commander looked back at the man, then back to me. It was almost as though he wasn't sure on what to do about us. Sonic and Kerbal after a bit, but now his fur and quills were letting off a bit of electricity. He was trying to keep calm, but couldn't. Then something hit us both, me in the shoulder. Sonic got hit in the arm, but this didn't feel like a bullet. The feeling was all too familiar with Sonic. He looked at the dark, feeling nauseous.
Tranquilizer, Shadow, please don't leave me.
He fell unconscious, his electrical current faded. I said nothing, feeling nauseous as well. His grip loosened, he was passed out. I was out cold after him. Some protector I turned out to be.